Some AEW news and notes. Hangman Adam Page retained his AEW World title and handed Bryan Danielson his first loss in an AEW ring on Wednesday. The first Dynamite on TBS. They were back over 1 million viewers. Only the second time since my birthday that they've done that. Paul White, Mark Henry, and Jerry Lynn were the judges for the match in case it went to another time limit draw, which it was not going to. They went half the time this time, and I thought it was even better than their Winter is Coming match. Both men bled. Danielson did everything he could to try to take that buckshot lariat away from Page. But in the end, he fell victim to it, got turned inside out. He put Page and his finish over in the strongest possible way. He gave him the 2 best matches of his life. I would love to see Bryan continue as a heel and work a program with Darby Allin, but it looks like Darby and Andrade is going to be next based off the promo he cut on Rampage talking about Stink and his little buddy. That's what he called him. The man called Stink. Jade Cargill beat Ruby Soho to become the first ever TBS Women's Champion. They did not have a very good match. It certainly did not feel like the finals of a big tournament. But she is the one they have big plans for, and so the hope here is that the title will make her and not the other way around. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, they are the new AEW Tag Team Champions. They beat the Lucha Brothers in a match that saw one of the most gruesome wrestling injuries that I have ever seen. Luchasaurus chokeslammed Rey Fenix off the apron through a table on the floor. Which, for these guys, sounds like a pretty routine bump, right? Just another day at the office. Phoenix, though, put his left arm out. He extended his left arm to brace his fall, and when he did, his arm got trapped underneath him, and it looked like his arm snapped in half when he landed on it. He immediately grabbed the arm. He started screaming. The finish with Jungle Boy pinning Penta went off as planned, but I guess they were supposed to go a little bit longer than they did. The title change was planned, though. Miraculously, Phoenix only suffered a dislocated elbow, a badly dislocated elbow, but a dislocated elbow and not a broken arm. This guy, I said on Wednesday, if he gets out of this without a broken arm, this guy must be fucking Gumby. Not that he's, fucking Gumby, like having sex with him, but he must be like Gumby. He must be made of rubber. How he managed to avoid a fracture with the way he landed on it is beyond me. The human body sometimes is an amazing thing. An amazingly resilient vessel is the, I sound like Matt Hardy now, is the human body. He said that he's got more tests to undergo before they can fully diagnose the extent of the injury and give him a timetable for when he might be able to come back. But no bones were broken. All things considered, I think he's the luckiest man alive this week. But that was disgusting. In the moment when you watch it, you don't know what the diagnosis is going to be. You just watch the injury happen and play out in real time. And it is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. And it reminded me of the Sid Vicious injury in WCW, where his foot, his boot, was just dangling. And that's still the worst I've ever seen. We'll see if the news gets any worse, because sometimes, x-rays don't pick up on everything, and they could miss smaller fractures, there could be ligament damage. So, there was somebody who posted something on one of the Lucha sites saying he could be back in a matter of weeks. I would be stunned if he was back in weeks. I think that's being a little optimistic. It'll probably be a while before we see him back in the ring again, but he really dodged a bullet, because that looked bad. Phoenix was not the only injury coming out of the Newark show on Wednesday. Jake Atlas, who just signed a contract with AEW, blew out his knee, working a match with Adam Cole at the Rampage taping that aired on Friday night. He came off the ropes with a springboard. He got caught with a super kick on the way down, and when he landed, his knee just buckled. And he finished the match. He couldn't go over for the Panama Sunrise, so Cole just slapped on a very weak-looking knee bar for the submission. Atlas on Twitter said his knee is going to be fine. We'll see him back soon. I don't know if he's gotten that MRI yet, but he was due for one. And at that point, we'll know how long he'll be out for. But he seems optimistic it won't be for that long. It's a shame because the match with Cole was very good. It was better than any match I ever saw him have in NXT. There's never a good time to go down with an injury, but this was the worst possible time for this to happen. Well, I mean, actually, he already signed the contract, right? He's getting paid. So I guess it would have been worse if this was a tryout and he had not yet signed his contract. That would have been worse. But hopefully he gets well soon. I thought that the match was very good. And if you are an AEW fan living in the UK, starting this week, Rampage is now airing on ITV and ITV4. Before, you can only watch it through Fight TV, although I think you got it on their commercial free. I don't know if it'll be ad-free or not on ITV. But it will air weekly on Tuesdays at 11:05 p.m. on ITV4. And will then replay Thursday nights on ITV. Last night was AEW's Battle of the Belts special, which was basically Saturday Night Rampage. Cody Rhodes announced on his Instagram that he and Brandi are isolating at home with family who have tested positive for COVID. So with the TNT Championship on ice, because the TNT Champion is in quarantine, they had to bump the match from the show with Cody and Sammy Guevara. Tony Khan made a match between Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara to crown an interim TNT champion, which seems very silly if Cody is only going to be gone for a week or two to crown an interim champion, although they could always create, some new storyline twist with there being two champions now. It's still silly to me, though. If he's going to be gone for a very short period of time, I don't know that you needed an interim champion. But the show is called Battle of the Belts, and they needed another title match, so this is what we ended up with. The two of them had a really good match, no surprise there. There were moments during the match where Dustin was he was slowing down there, showing his age, but he's 52 years old out there doing some fantastic work. I mean, he and Ricky Morton are out there in their 50s and 60s busting out Canadian destroyers. Sammy needed this win. Coming off the Cody loss, Dustin gave Sammy a destroyer off the apron through a table. And that was not the finish. I hate that. They do it all the time, but I hate that. Sammy came back, won the title after trading a series of roll-ups. Sammy got one that stuck, got the pin, and he is now the interim TNT champion. Very good stuff here. Daniel Garcia was sitting in the crowd watching this match. When the match was over, he got into the ring. He got right up in Sammy's face. The two of them had to be pulled apart. They were brawling and rolling around. And so Wednesday on Dynamite, it will be Sammy defending his interim title against Daniel Garcia. Ricky Starks retained his FTW title against Matt Sydal. Good match, not as good as the opener. It's just nice to see Ricky Starks back on television. We haven't seen him in the ring very much on Dynamite or Rampage since he came back from the neck injury, and that was months ago. After the match, Starks was still attacking Sydal. Lee Moriarty ran out for the save. Dante Martin ran out, and he started a little brawl with Powerhouse Hobbs, knocked him out of the ring, and the two of them are going to have a match on Wednesday. Britt Baker, in the main event, retained her AEW Women's Championship over Riho. She finally got that elusive victory over Riho, and with the lockjaw, no less. She got the submission win. I thought it started out okay. It picked up nicely in the final few minutes. There were some convincing near falls there at the end. They gave them time to. This was probably somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. It's very obvious. Jamie Hayter is on her way out of this little group with her and Rebel and Baker. More tension teased between the two of them here. I think the split happens in the next few weeks, and the match for Revolution in March is Britt Baker defending the title against Jamie Hayter. But I don't think we're getting a title change in that match. So Battle of the Belts, it was a fine episode of Rampage. That's really all that it was. I thought these quarterly specials that Tony Khan told us about would feel more special. This one sort of snuck up on us. Not a lot of hype, not a lot of thought seemed to really be put into it. So if you were expecting a Clash of the Champions type special or Saturday Night's Main Event type of deal, this was underwhelming.